Okay, welcome back. I'm going to do my previews for week number 18 of the NFL season. There were two games on Saturday and I believe 14 games on Sunday. There's no Monday night games or Thursday night games to finish out the last week of the season. And it's so depressing thinking it's the last week of the NFL season. Every week that goes by, it's just like it's closer to the end, it's closer to the end. Now we're at the end. Oh, this is sad. All right, so on Saturday we have four teams from the AFC North. This could settle a few different positions when it comes to the playoff picture. The first matchup takes place in Baltimore as the Ravens are playing host to the Cleveland Browns. A win for Baltimore, very simple, and they get the AFC North crown for the second year in a row. A loss and a Pittsburgh win, Baltimore could drop down to the number 5 seed in the AFC, I apologize. But if they finish with the same record as the Chargers and they both finish as wildcard teams, I'm just curious as to would Baltimore drop to the 6th seed or the 5th seed? I don't remember if the Ravens played the Chargers. I know the Broncos played. Oh, they had to have because the Broncos played the Ravens and the Steelers. So now I'm a little intrigued. Whoever won that matchup between the Ravens and the Chargers, that could play a big factor as to who finishes as the number 5 seed or the number 6 seed if the Ravens happen to drop out of the NFC North lead. But I'm going to give the edge to Baltimore. I think they should get the victory and they should get back-to-back AFC North crowns. The other game on the right has the Pittsburgh Steelers 10-6 taking on the 8-8 Cincinnati Bengals. The Steelers have already locked in a playoff position. The Bengals have not yet. A win for Cincy and a loss for the Denver Broncos and the Miami Dolphins, I believe, are the other team that are fighting for a playoff spot. The Bengals could be the third team in the AFC North to get into the postseason. So a huge game for the Bengals. I think it's even bigger for the Bengals than it is for the Steelers because the Steelers, I feel like they've already accepted fate. Maybe they haven't, that they are going to finish as a wild card team because the Ravens theoretically should beat the Browns. So the Steelers, they are the number 5 seed right now. But if they lose to the Bengals and say the Chargers win, the Steelers could drop down to the number 6 seed, which means they would possibly take on the Ravens in the first round of the matchup, and that would be an epic showdown as a wild card matchup. Oh, this would be crazy. I'm going to give the edge to Cincy. They seem to be on a bit of a roll recently, and I'm sure they live for drama, to say the least. So, yeah, I'll give the edge to Cincinnati. They should improve to 9-8, and then depending on the outcome of Sunday's game, with the Broncos and Dolphins, respectively, they could be in a playoff spot by the end of Sunday, or they could possibly be eliminated as well. So I think they'll keep things interesting, and they should get their 9th win of the season and finish above 500. Okay, now we're off to Atlanta. They are 8-8, taking on the 4-12 Carolina Panthers. Atlanta needs this win if they want to make the playoffs, but they also need a little help too. They can't make the wild card playoff position. That's impossible. So they're fighting for the NFC South crown. So Atlanta needs this win. They should get the win over the Panthers. And then depending on the outcome of the Saints and Buccaneers game, they could either be NFC South champions or they could be on the outside looking in. Unfortunately, it's 50-50. All right, the Dallas Cowboys 7-9 playing host to the Washington Commanders. Washington sitting at 11-5. I believe they have the number 6 seed as we speak. They cannot jump up to the number 5 seed, as that's already been claimed by either the Lions or the Vikings, respectively. So they could drop down to number 7 if the Packers win and say Dallas beats the Commanders. So a huge win for Washington, or a huge game for Washington that could decide their seeding in the playoffs. I'm going to give the edge to the Commanders. They should get the win, and they should finish as the number 6 seed in the NFC. The Packers, 11-5, 4-12, Chicago Bears. I'm going to give the edge to Green Bay. They've owned the Bears. I think they've won 11 straight games over the Bears. And speaking of 11 straight losses, this could be 11 straight losses for the Bears if they lose this matchup to end out their season. And who would have guessed? They started off 4-2. They looked like they could be a threat, especially with Caleb Williams, but a lot of bad decisions, poor play, bad calls, whatever you want to call it, have doomed this team. But look on the bright side. At least they're guaranteed a possible first round pick in the top 10 of this upcoming draft. But yeah, I think the Packers should get the win, and they should finish as the number 7 seed, which means they will likely take on the Eagles in the first round of the matchup. It'll be a bit of a tough go, but anything can happen in the postseason. All right, the game on the right has the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. For Indy, they were hoping this game was going to be meaningful. They lost last week to the Giants, which ended their season, unfortunately. But let's be honest, their season's been a bit of a roller coaster all year. So we'll see how they fare out next week. This is obviously back-to-back seasons where it came down to the wire. Last year, they played the Texans in Week 18 and lost, didn't make the postseason. And then this week, they lost in Week 17 to the Giants and got officially eliminated. So they kept things interesting to the end the last 2 years. There is hope. This team could possibly turn things around maybe as early as next season, but unfortunately for the 2024-25 campaign, they have been eliminated from the postseason. I believe they should finish 8-9. They should finish strong at least, and a win at home in the last week of the season could, I'm sure, be nice for the fans, to say the least. So I will give the edge to Indy in this matchup against the Jaguars. The New England Patriots 3-13, taking on the team with the opposite record, the Buffalo Bills 13-3. For the Bills, they've already secured the AFC East crown. I think they got that about 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. They will finish as the number 2 seed in the AFC, as the Ravens cannot catch up to them in the standings. So they are guaranteed a playoff game and a wild card round. It's just a matter of who are they going to host, whether it's the Broncos, whether it's the Dolphins, or the Bengals. One of those 3 teams are likely heading to Buffalo for the playoff round. As for this game, depending on whether they start anybody, whether it's Josh Allen as the QB or whoever their backups are for other positions, I personally would rest all my starters because you literally have nothing to play for. Again, you can't gain you can't gain any ground on the Chiefs, and you can't drop to the number 3 seed. So why risk anything? You might as well take a week off in your last week of the season, get your guys healthy and rested for the playoff round, which is just 2 weeks away. But whether they start Josh Allen and his friends or not, I'm still going to give the edge to Buffalo in this matchup. The Philadelphia Eagles are playing host to the New York Giants, just like the game I talked about before. These 2 teams also have opposite records. Eagles 13-3, the Giants 3-13. I'll give the edge to the Eagles in this game. Again, they're in the same situation as the Bills, as they are likely going to finish as the number 2 seed in the NFC. They can't drop to the 3rd, and I don't know if they can catch the Lions or Vikings respectively for the top seed in the NFC, as one of those teams will likely finish with 15 wins, and the Eagles obviously can't finish with any more than 14. So I think the Eagles have accepted their fate, as they should get the number 2. They will get the number 2 seed in the NFC. And whether they start their starters or not is up to them, but I'm still going to give the Eagles the edge in this matchup over the Giants. Tampa Bay 9-7, taking on the 5-11 New Orleans Saints. A critical game for Tampa Bay, as I previously talked about with the Atlanta game. A win for Tampa Bay, they make the playoffs. If they lose and Atlanta happens to win, Tampa Bay would be eliminated from the postseason. So they got a lot on the line. They're definitely trying to get their 2nd straight title, NFC South title with Baker Mayfield, and their 4th in 4 years. Obviously, Tom Brady led them to 2 NFC South championships in 2021 and 22 respectively, 21 and 22 respectively. And now Baker Mayfield led them to an NFC South crown last year, and he's looking to do the same again this year, and I believe he will. So Tampa Bay should get the 10th win of the season, and again, they should finish with an NFC South crown. Okay, off to the right, as the Tennessee Titans are playing host to the Houston Texans. Houston, they're kind of in limbo at this point. This is just my take. They've already claimed the AFC South crown. They're locked in as the number 4 seed in the AFC. They're on a 2-game losing streak. Do you play for pride? You get your starters in there and get a win over a division winner. This way you have more confidence heading into the wild card round. Or do you rest your starters knowing that a win or a loss makes no difference in the standings and you're guaranteed to finish as the number 4 seed? So it's like high risk, high reward kind of thing. Like, do you start your guys, you get the win, but possibly risk getting injured? Or do you take the L, lose 3 straight games with your backups or a third string, but are healthy for a wild card round and rested? It's tough. I'll still give the edge to the Texans, although the Tennessee Titans did beat them earlier in the season in Houston, so they easily could get the sweep. But my heart's saying Houston should get their 10th win of the season, whether they start their starters or not. Okay, the Arizona Cardinals are playing host to the San Francisco Giants. Both these teams had disappointing seasons. Arizona was leading the NFC West division at 1 point, but unfortunately, the wheels kind of fell or kind of came out from under them, and they can't even finish with an above 500 record. So I'm sure it's a bittersweet pill to swallow, knowing that you could have won that division, which was literally up for grabs up until about a week ago. Let's be honest with you. Anybody could have got that. So a meaningless game for the Cardinals and an even more meaningless game for the 49ers as an injury-plagued season. Like, I've never seen a team with so many injuries in my life go through the kind of injuries that the San Francisco 49ers had to deal with this year. A very disappointing season. They had high hopes of getting back to the Super Bowl since they made it last year and lost to the Chiefs. And there's these things called a Super Bowl hangover for when teams that win struggle the following year. Well, San Fran didn't even win. They just made it to the Super Bowl and lost. So this is like, if there's a Super Bowl hangover, imagine being like a Super Bowl loser hangover and then have that carry out for you for the entire following season. So a very disappointing end again to the season for the 49ers, but they put up a fight last week against the Lions, and I believe if they can put up a fight against the Lions, they can do the same with Arizona. So I say both these teams finish with a 7-10 record, as I'm going to give the 49ers the edge in this matchup. All right, now for the last 2 weeks, before I even talk about this, I have been begging and praying that my team would finally get into the postseason. They just needed one win. They lost against the Chargers. They lost against the Bengals. Now, granted, they were both they're both away games, and they're going up against teams that are fighting for a playoff spot. So I can't really fault them for that. But there definitely were some questionable calls or some plays that should have gone the other way. The Denver Broncos are 9-7. They're sitting as the number 7 seed in the AFC. A win and they're in, and they should get the win considering Kansas City. They are for sure resting their starters. Carson Wentz is making his first start as the quarterback for the Chiefs, as obviously Patrick Mahomes is sitting out this matchup. The Chiefs have nothing to play for. They have already claimed the number 1 seed in the AFC, which means they have a first round bye in the wild card round, and then they're guaranteed a home game in the divisional and championship games respectively. And let's be honest, they're likely hosting both of those games or playing both of those games. But yeah, I believe Denver should get the win. They need this win if they want to end that 8-year, 9-year playoff drought. I can't believe the last time they made it was when Peyton Manning was the quarterback and we had our no-fly zone that led us to the Super Bowl 50 victory over Carolina. But time flies. So I'm going to give Denver the edge. I picked against them the last 2 weeks, and they've lost. So if I pick for them, maybe they'll get the win. But yeah, there's always drama in the NFL, especially around this team. All right, the Los Angeles Rams 10-6 taking on the 9-7 Seattle Seahawks. For the Seahawks, this has to be like an FU kind of game because they could beat the Rams, finish with the same record, but they're not making the playoffs. So I guarantee they're a little pissed off about that. I wouldn't blame them. I was honestly hoping that this would be a meaningful matchup as one team would be guaranteed to win the division and have a home playoff game while the other team would be eliminated. So it would have been so much more intriguing and so much more interesting with a lot more on the line. Unfortunately, the division was settled last week when the Rams won. So this game literally means nothing for the Seahawks. The game means a lot for the Rams because a win here could lock them in as the number 3 seed. So they're guaranteed to start their starters because they want to get that number 3 seed. They don't want to give that up. And for the Seahawks, you're playing for pride more at this point. But again, if I was a Seahawks fan and they won this and my team finished with the same record as the Rams and the Rams made it to the postseason and I'd be a little pissed off too. So this is a very confusing game. I wouldn't even know how to feel about this game, honestly, as a fan. But I'll give the edge to the Rams. Again, they have a lot more on the line than obviously the Seahawks do, considering they were eliminated last week. The Las Vegas Raiders 4-12 taking on the 10-6 Los Angeles Chargers. For Vegas, this game literally means nothing. Obviously, if they lose, they're guaranteed a first round pick in the top 10 easily. I don't know about the top 5, maybe the top 5. There's a lot of teams that are struggling, to say the least, including them. For the Chargers, though, this is huge. If they win this game, and I talked about this at the start of the video with the Ravens and Steelers, one of those two teams are finished as a wild card team with the Chargers. But if for some crazy reasons, let's say both the Ravens and the Steelers lose their game and the Chargers win, I'm pretty sure LA would bump up to the number 5 seed in the NFC and more than likely head into Houston, taking them on in the first round of the playoffs. But obviously a loss here for the Chargers means they're guaranteed to lock in as the number 6 seed. They can't drop to the number 7 seed as they've already beaten the Broncos twice. So if Denver happens to get that last playoff position and they both finish 10-7, LA would have, again, they would have, because they won both the games against Denver, they would for sure finish as the number 6 seed. But again, if the other two teams, the Ravens and Steelers, happen to lose, LA could jump up to 5th. So this is a huge game for LA. Obviously, depending on the outcome of the Saturday's games, this game could be absolutely meaningless. They could be already locked in as the number 6 seed and have nothing to gain from this matchup. But again, even if the Steelers lose and LA finishes with one more win, they could still finish with the number 5 seed too. So a lot on the line again for a lot of teams. And the way the playoff picture looks right now could be completely different by the end of Sunday night. And the last afternoon game for Sunday takes place in New York as the Jets 4-12 taking on the 8-8 Miami Dolphins. Critical game for the Dolphins. They need a win. They need the Broncos to lose. They need the Bengals to lose if they want to have a chance at a playoff position. So basically 3 teams are fighting for one spot in the AFC. I knew it would be a drama-filled thing, but I was really hoping Denver could have just won last week and this whole playoff situation would be done, at least for the AFC side. But this is what football's for. It's made for drama and moments like this. So if the Bengals happen to lose Sunday, then obviously the 2 afternoon games in Denver and New York could be even more meaningful for these 2 teams at a playoff position. But if the Bengals win and say Denver and Miami lose, the Bengals could get into the postseason while the Dolphins and Broncos would be on the outside looking in. So 3 huge games for 3 teams. Again, only one playoff position available. Now, this is the game of the week. I don't care what anybody says. This is the game of the week as we have the 14-2 Detroit Lions taking on the 14-2 Minnesota Vikings. A win for either one of these teams would not only secure an NFC South crown, but the number 1 seed in the NFC, which means the playoffs would go through you. So if Detroit finishes or wins this game, then Detroit would be guaranteed a home divisional playoff game. And if they win that, an NFC home championship game. So I'm sure they would love that, considering they've been so poor for so long. And as for the Vikings, a team that really wasn't supposed to do much this year, they did a lot of good and more. Obviously, a win here for the Vikings would mean they would get the NFC North crown and a first round bye, and then obviously a home divisional matchup and a possible home championship game as well. So this is a huge game for both these teams. I think both these teams will be putting up 30-plus points, respectively. Not trying to disrespect the defense for the Lions or the Vikings, but both these offenses are a juggernaut. I think the first time these 2 teams played was in week 7. The Lions won that just narrowly, though. I think it was 31-29, so it was a very close game. I think this will be another close game as well. This could be like a 35-32 finish or 34-31. I think it's going to be for sure a high-scoring game between both these teams. I'm sounding like a broken record. I'm so excited about this game. I just can't stop myself. I'm sorry. But, yeah, I think Detroit will take this, and they'll have one heck of a playoff run if a lot of teams have to go into their home building to try to get a win, because Detroit's they're a juggernaut. Minnesota, they're just as big of a threat. Both these teams, let's be honest, they're both Super Bowl contenders. So It's going to be crazy to think that whoever loses is going to have 14 wins, but they're going to be the number. Absurd. I've never seen this, and I've been watching football for over 20 years, maybe even 30 years, whatever it is. I've never seen a situation where a team had 14 wins and they didn't win the division. This is so crazy how good both these teams really are. But yeah, my heart says Detroit should get the home victory, and they should claim the number 1 seed in the NFC. So heading into week number 18, I had a record of 181-75. Even if I go 0-16, I'll still finish above 500. So I'll pat myself on the back for getting my predictions correctly most of the time. Alrighty, I will have a recap for week 18 on Monday, which will finish out the regular season. And then as the week progresses, I will be doing my previews for the playoffs, which I can't believe are right around the corner. It's scary how fast time flies. I can't believe it. Okay, well, that's going to take care of my preview for week number 18. For those of you that have been following me throughout the season, I can't thank you enough. I can't believe the season's coming to an end. It's so sad. I can't believe it. Again, I will have my review on Monday morning. And yeah, then we'll get into the playoff talks when it comes to the National Football League. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. Until next time, and as always, take care.